I guess another big thing that happened this week was this past Thursday. Let's Talk Sex had the event where they were hosting the feminist pornographer, and she was discussing sort of what she thought the role of feminism in pornography was, if there can be feminist pornography. I know you haven't published on this topic, I don't think, but I wondered what were your opinions. Do you think it was a good idea of bringing her in? Do you think that there can be feminist pornography, or is pornography inherently sort of misogynist?
I don't think pornography is inherently misogynist. I think it's probably possible for there to be feminist pornography. I haven't seen it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, though, and I wasn't at the Let's Talk Sex event, not because I had some objection to it, I just wasn't there. Probably is valuable to have events like that, to be able to discuss issues like pornography, because it's really ubiquitous. I think that it's interesting to discuss whether there can be some social value to it, but a lot of pornography, let's be honest with ourselves, a lot of it is misogynist, and there are misogynist themes. I think that Mr. Carroll described pornography that involved leashes, things like that. Of course, there's an element of misogyny there. Let's not fool ourselves. And I think that the president of Pink Visual, who recently wrote a column in the Prince, she was trying to make the case that a lot of her pornography really is not misogynist. She's got a bunch of feminists on her board of directors, but Mr. Carroll's he hit the nail on the head. If you talk about lesbian pornography and say, oh well, that's meant for lesbians, come on, give me a break. I'm sure that there is lesbian pornography targeted at lesbians, but there's a reason that men consume most of this stuff. It's meant for men, and there is an element of misogyny there. That doesn't mean that pornography shouldn't exist, and I'm not saying that at all. But it's not created, for the most part, because of any social reason, aside from the fact that it's not created for social commentary. Men want to consume it.
Yeah. Well, I thought one interesting thing you said was that the fact that you think that events like this are valuable. I know that a lot of the controversy circled around the fact that not just that they were allowing a feminist pornographer to have cost 10 for a venue, but that they had actually given, I think it was $1,500 in order to sponsor her on campus. What do you think? Do you think that USG funds should have been allocated to this event, or do you think that that was a bad idea? That if Let's wanted to bring in a speaker, they needed to find the funding on their own, independent of student fees?
Well, I'm not well versed in USG's official policies on where they grant money to, where they don't, but I don't really have a problem with it. I mean, USG does grant funds to lots of different groups, and I think it's dangerous to discriminate too much. This is probably something that did have some merit, but I wasn't there, I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment on whether it was really worthwhile in this event, but my hunch is there probably isn't a problem.
Okay, interesting, yeah. Because I think a lot of the controversy, that, I mean, both people, regardless of whether it was, a matter of the fact that people don't like pornography or did like pornography, I think that a lot of the discussion also, people started to wonder about the fact that, is it right to host an event where inherently, if you're trying to create discussion, people feel uncomfortable about going? So for instance, if they just sponsored a talk, with a panel discussion of, feminist pornographers and normal pornographers and, people that were against pornography, then that way it would have been maybe more of a discussion. But when you actually are showing pornography for the sake of example, and instances like this, that inherently makes people feel uncomfortable about going, that oftentimes might have been your biggest, critics, that if they themselves find that, sitting in this auditorium makes them feel uncomfortable, or they think it's actually just wrong to sit in the auditorium because they're being shown pornography, that oftentimes that can limit, I guess, the amount of critics that can go, which inherently, I guess, goes against the notion of creating an open discussion, a forum for, discourse.
That's an interesting point, and I think that I would hope that it wasn't too gratuitous, whatever they showed. But if you're going to be able to have this kind of discussion on both sides, it probably is worthwhile to be able to be willing to look at least at what the expert is trying to demonstrate. And I assume that there was a legitimate point she was trying to convey with the specific clips that she showed. So it probably would have been valuable for opponents to see it. But I can understand people not being comfortable, and I imagine that the USG has in the past invited speakers with or paid for events by other groups where speakers were invited and people might have disagreed with them so much that they would have been uncomfortable there. So I don't know if that's a fair standard, whether or not someone's going to be uncomfortable. But you're right, it might have limited the debate to some extent, which is unfortunate.
I think one final question, a very important question on this weekend. Will you be going to lawn parties, and where will you be going?
I will be going to lawn parties. I had an unfortunate experience last lawn parties. I got my Procs lost, so I had some issues that weekend. But planning on seeing the Roots at Quad. Should be a lot of fun. What about you?
I think I'll be heading to Tower. I think Wale is there, and then I'll probably head over to see the Roots. So sounds like it will be a good lawn parties weekend. And I guess with that, we end this PrinceCast. I'd like to thank Jacob for being here, and we'll see you next time.